What's going on, guys? It's Greg Farley from The Wise Guys, aka Pegasus, and we're here with a different type of video today. We're not going to go into the top 10 decks of the meta, the top 5 decks of the meta, because it just doesn't make sense. Right now we're in a meta that really has a new feel to it. Now, people hate Mystic Mine and blah blah blah. We could go on about how stupid that card is and how fast it needs to go, but we have to talk about how the game is progressing now versus how it usually progresses, because it's definitely in a different spot. Up here you have, I think Mystic Mine is up at the top, Sky Striker is up at the top, I think you have Salad up at the top, and I think you have Orcust up at the top. That's just what it is right now. It's too easy to pick the decks up and get rolling with them. Now Sky Striker not so much, because you kind of have to be a good player to play it right now. But I definitely think this is the way the tier list is breaking down right now. Now, in that next part, that next little tier, I think there's a mid-tier. And in that mid-tier, I think there's just a ton of decks that can win a tournament. They can win a tournament. Yes, Thunder Dragon players, you can win a tournament. Not to keep roasting you every video, but you can win a tournament. But I think Thunder Dragon, I think Dino, Thunder Dragon, some kind of mixes of Dino. Dino is just nuts. 3 Miscellaneousaurus is nuts, and it's good for players to really enjoy that deck, to have that deck at full power, because it's not overwhelming, even though it will overwhelm you if you get caught slipping. I think Pendulum is right there with that. I think Thunder Dragon, obviously. I think True Draco is right there. True Draco can beat everybody, or it can get wiped out of a tournament. It depends on what you play. I think Cyber Dragon is in that little mid-range tier, and obviously one of my favorite decks, Guru Control. Guru Control, it's just a one-card go-off engine, and if you have a card like that, like Hidden City, what else can you say? It just has to go off of the one card and then beat you down with the floodgates, much like Draco, kind of. But I think the deck is kind of better than Draco, even though it hasn't had the same results. Lastly, I think there's a lower tier, and I'm not saying that these decks can't do the same thing that mid tier can, but they just don't do it as much. And I do think Altergeist is in there. Now, with the addition of Crackdown to these decks, like Subterror, like True Draco, like Altergeist, I think Crackdown has made a positive impact to the meta, but it isn't an unfair card. Like, your effect doesn't get negated, you still get to go through. And sometimes these pressure decks like Orcust, they just walk right through it anyway. You still have to respond a certain way, but I mean, you can just keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. That's basically what that boils down to. But I do think in that lower part of that list, you have decks like Spiral, decks like Crusadia, decks like Altergeist, decks like Mech Knights. Mech Knights has a great Pendulum matchup, and Pendulum is kind of creeping up. It's almost at the top, but the Pendulum mechanic can just get blown out sometimes, you know, with cards like Salamangreat, Rage, Twin Twister being in people's main decks, and permanents taking away counters, things like that. But I do think Altergeist and Mech Knights and Crusadia and Spiral can catch everybody slipping. And if you get caught slipping, then you just got caught. Again, this is my version of how I see the list and the decks in the meta right now. I think there's so many more to name as well. You know, I think Dino variants and Pure Dino can both do something. I think there's some Dino Wrestler stuff. I think in the right hand, somebody can still play Lights One type decks. You know, so on and so forth. This meta really is open. You just have to prepare for certain stupid cards like Mystic Mine. This has been Greg Farley from The Wise Guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay tuned. We have live duels coming. We have awesome deck profiles coming over the weekend, as always. And as always, we appreciate you guys. We're trying to get to that 1,000 subscribers, so tell everybody about us. Appreciate you guys. YG baby.